Hey guys, so I know it's been a very long time since I've been on this channel, but I'm very glad to be back. And the first thing I want to talk about after this very long time is the nature of the shadow function, insured intuition, in the INTP and also the INFP as well. So, insured intuition, not a function we normally associate with INFPs and INTPs. We usually associate extrovert intuition with these two types, but socionics tells us how all 8 of the functions work in all 16 of the types. So this comes from my understanding of socionics, but also my own personal observations of the INTPs and INFPs I know that I've encountered with throughout my life. And we also have a bonus here. I too am also an INFP. So I could tell you from personal experience as well. So the thing is, I do a lot of visual identification. So the two strongest functions of the INFP is not, one of them is actually not extrovert intuition. The two strongest functions of the INFP are these two, introvert feeling and introvert intuition. And for INTPs, it's introvert thinking and introvert intuition. So, the first things I notice about in the types are their two very strong functions because they have so much of it and they're expressing so much of it through their speech and through how they act, right? And that is how I'm able to pick up that this is a very strong function in a type. So I could tell if someone is very strong in introvert intuition, and these types are INTJ, INFJ, but also INTP and also INFP as well. And what I could see is that these types look like they have tired looking eyes. And it also looks like their motions are kind of delayed and they're slowly reacting to things. It looks kind of weird. And I'm kind of also making fun of how I look too. But that is how it looks like. And if you really look at INFPs and INTPs, it's as much true for those types as the INFJ and also the INTJ. So that is how it looks like. Introvert intuition is deep introspection. It looks like someone who is looking inwards on themselves. So when they're talking, it looks like they're looking inwards and they're pondering and they're reflecting deeply on things. So it's like someone who is, here's life, and they're kind of like floating away from life and they're kind of looking down on it and perceiving their life going on, right? So that is how it looks like. That's why they look kind of zoned out. INTPs, INFPs, and also the other INTJs, INFJs, they look kind of zoned out. This is different from extrovert intuition. Extrovert intuition is about learning about the world. So it goes out and learns about how the world is. So they have a good or better understanding of the world, the real world, right? So ENTPs, ENFPs, they go out and they learn all these different kinds of things. INFPs, INTPs, they have extrovert intuition as a strong function, so they do some of this. They do actually a lot of it, but not nearly to the extent of ENTPs and ENFPs. When you look at ENTPs and ENFPs, they have a lot of understanding about the world, right? The INTPs and INFPs is more like, I want you to look at introvert intuition as something that could kind of like occur in a vacuum. It doesn't need to pick up information from outside. Sometimes information could inform it, right? But that is not the primary point. It looks like it's not taking in information from the outside world or not in any sort of direct kind of way that extrovert intuition does, and is able to create a perspective that comes completely from within itself. So that is how that looks like. So this is what you see INTPs and INFPs do when they speak and when, basically when they speak. So anyways, this leads INTPs and INFPs to make a lot of assumptions. I noticed INTPs and INFPs make a lot of assumptions about things. It's because of their weak extrovert sensing as a polar function. They're not getting as much actual life experience, right? They don't count on life experience. They use their intuition to kind of figure out how this situation would be like, and sometimes they could make a lot of assumptions about it which are not necessarily true. So that's kind of how I see how introvert intuition is like. Extrovert intuition is more curious and wants to go out and try things, and there's an element of INFPs and INTPs, if they're healthy and they want to exercise their extrovert intuition, you could see that happening, right? Anyway, another way that introvert intuition manifests itself is that introvert intuition is a kind of a convergent kind of function. Extrovert intuition is more divergent, right? There's many different possibilities, right? Introvert intuition is convergent. So there's a kind of a purist kind of manner in INFPs and INTPs. They use their introvert intuition to serve their dominant function. So it's a very strong function, but it's used to serve their dominant function. INTPs, they use NI to serve the purposes of TI. And INFPs, on the other hand, I lost my FI. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay. They use their NI to serve FI, right? So when INFPs approach relationships, which is important for the FI, they use their NI. So I'll give you an example. And I'm going to give an example of INTPs as well. So INFPs look at a relationship of, like, for example, a potential partner that they'll have or they want, and they'll focus in on that idea of that partner, right? And then they start to think about how it's not going to work out, how having this partner is not going to work out for them, for instance, right? So this is what I mean by bringing a lot of assumptions into things. So what introvert intuition does is that it focuses on one idea and thinks about it a lot, and to the point it starts doubting it, right? So that's why it's different from extrovert intuition. So for INTPs, they have TI. So they have very specific models of the world, of how it works. They have specific definitions, right? And when those specific definitions and ways they view the world in a logical sense congeal, right? Then they become kind of purist about it in a way. So in order to come up with a very specific definition about how something works, right, they use their NI. Their NI converges on a very specific model or definition of something. So INTPs are actually kind of like, though they're NT types, they're kind of idealistic in a way, in this sense, because they're very idealistic in their logic, right? Things have to accord to their logic. So that is how the NI manifests in that sense. And another way that in NI, introvert intuition, manifests is that INTPs and INFPs use introvert intuition in the negative sense because it's a demonstrative function. So they use it to prevent danger from happening. So for example, INFPs will be afraid of offending the person through their FI, so they use their NI, and they try to see whether, if they say something, whether somewhere down the conversation they might end up offending that person. So they stop themselves from trying to use offensive words. And this is actually very annoying for the INFP, that we tend to do this. So that's why we don't really like this function that much. So this is a way of preventing danger from happening. For the INTP, they logically see the consequences of actions, right? And they want to prevent it from happening, from the bad thing from happening. If you're an INTP and INFP, if you encounter like a kind of a dangerous situation, right? Something that's dangerous, you find yourself in that, you could actually see your introvert intuition being at use because it's an unconscious function, but it becomes very apparent when there's danger. To what degree you're able to prevent this danger from happening. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about how these two types use extrovert sensing, because this pairs very nicely with this video.